Hi, my name is Sayed. In this video, we'll be looking at what is subject to or sub to sales in real estate and what are the pros and cons into that. So let's get started with that. The first thing is, what is subject to sale? So the subject to sale is a offer. Is a conditional offer to buy a property that is contingent on the buyer selling their own property first. So there is a condition, and this is basically an offer with the condition that if they're able to sell their property first, then they will buy this property. This means that the buyer is not legally obligated to buy the property if they are unable to sell their own home. So that is the one condition. There could be other conditions that could be defined in this offer, and that offer will be invalidated if these conditions are not met, and that could fall into crack. So let's get started and take a look at a deep dive what is happening in there. So we will discuss that. You probably have seen many YouTube videos that what this is sub to is, and they explain it without explaining the whole thing. They just show the good side of it as a buyer, that or as a that you can do learn their course, or they're selling their something. So in the end of their video, you can see that they're pointing you towards something that they're selling. So that is a risky transaction because that is an offer with condition. There are too many dependencies involved in that. In the offer, you might see different conditions and contingencies are available that can cause an issue and that can slow your transaction. Many people say it's exploiting, you're ripping people off with it's a worse for seller because they take advantage of that. If they are in some certain condition, they're selling theirs and they want to sell it quickly, and so they take advantage of that and put it on subto and then make a very low ball offer to the seller and then give an issue. But legally standing, that could be legally fine, but ethically that could be wrong because that is giving the offer. And also, if you are thinking about this, check with your real estate agent and the lawyer on this topic. This is my take on the subject. So this is my view, and then that's what I think is. You can also search online and see what is information is available. So uncertainty and timing. So timeline variation that can cause an issue. Contractual holds up because that offer is giving you a contractual. You cannot sell your property because that next thing is not happening. Financial challenges, unforeseen circumstances, compounded stress, and lost opportunities. Let's take a look at all of these topics in detail. And what are they saying? For example, a timeline variation. The timeline for the selling a property can highly variable and influenced by a range of factors, including market conditions and the location of the property, its price point, and overall economic trend. So meaning that if you are selling a property and there could be impacted by that, but the transaction cannot be completed because of that timeline, and that can fall into track. If the buyer's property take longer to sell than expected, it can lead to a delay on their ability to complete the purchase of your property. So if they're saying, I need to buy this property first before I buy your property, or then you sell your property, so that can cause an issue into this transaction, and that can cause a delay, and that can put a stress onto the in the whole condition of subto. Contractual holds up. Even if the buyer receive an offer on their property relatively quickly, there can still be a delay in finalizing the sales due to negotiation of the terms, inspection process, potential repairs, and other contingencies. These delay in their own property and the delays in their own property sale could in turn affect the timeline of the completing of the purchase of the property. So I have seen videos where the subto buyer is making an offer onto the property with their contract, but they're not, and they're saying that somebody will come and inspect the the property. They're not saying that there is inspection is happening. So when this inspection happen, that is the same process that you are doing when you're selling your property to someone else. So if they are going into this in this mode and then trying to get into this transaction, that can basically telling them that you need to sell fast and then quickly, and then making it offer, and then put you onto the sub to contractual holds, and that can delay the transaction, and with this sub to they can back out of the transaction as well. So that's then also issue into the sub to picture. So they can have different variations instead of just buying another property. So financial challenges and unforeseen circumstances. So financial challenges, even if the buyer has potential to buy for their property, there is still a risk that the sales could fall through due to financing issue onto the buyer's end of their buyers. Yeah, so that could result in the further delay and even collapse of the entire transaction. So if they are not able to sell it to the buyer, and there could be they have a financial issue, they don't have earnest money, they don't have deposit, they don't have loan approved on their side, and that can cause a delay, and basically the whole transaction can collapse because of the one party. So let's take a look at it. There could be unforeseen circumstances. For example, there could be emergency happen on the one side of the transaction, and that can cause a delay in the whole transaction, and that can cause an issue if you're doing sub 2. So these things are not explained when they're talking about sub 2. They just go over and then go faster, and without explaining what are the negative sides are into that. So the compound stress. As a seller, you are left in a state of limbo where waiting for a buyer's property to sell. So that is like you are waiting and you're waiting and you don't know what's actually really happening, and you're not really sure because the other things have to happen first, and you are waiting for this transaction to happen. So this can add a stress and uncertainty to your own plan, whether you are trying to move into your new home, downsize, or make a significant life decision based on the sale of your property. So that is another issue, that if you are doing something, and that can cause because of the added stress. Buying a house is not easy, and if you have this something sub to in there, and you're waiting for another party to do their something other transaction, so that can add a significant higher stress. Lost opportunities. So if you are the extended timeline associated with the subject to sales arrange might cause you miss out on the potential buyers and who are ready to able to. So if you go online and take a look at it on the real estate website, where you can see it under contract, meaning they could be under subject to, and they're just waiting on there for 2 months or 3 months, and that can fall out of there, and then you could have different buyers. They can offer you more money, but because of this property went under subject to, that can cause an issue, and then you can lost a sale to higher bidder or buyer, because subject to most likely that they're offering you cash offer or lower ball offer, so then you can lose an opportunity in that. Limited pool of buyers. So what that is, reduce buyer interest, niche market. So let's take a look into these topics, because of the limited because of you limiting your transaction based on the because buyers would not be interested, niche market. So let's take a look at it. Reduce buyers. So if you are selling your property on subject to, there could be people who are not interested into that. So by stipulating that your sale of your property is contingent on sale of the buyer's property, you are inherently reduce the number of potential buyers interested in your property. So meaning that let's say I am going for the property to buy, but there is a subject to that if they buy another property or if they sell another property, then they can do this transaction. That can cause an issue, and that can reduce the other people to be interested in your property. So niche market. So that subject to sales condition tend to appeal to specific subset of buyers who are particulars in situations such as who are in upgrading a new home and need to sell their current property first, that narrowed down the pool of interest of the parties to niche market. So meaning that it's basically same topic that people would not be interested if because of the subject to market, because that is very limited people who are could wait onto this buying this property, and because you are selling the property first. So preface of simplicity and financial consideration. So what does that mean is many buyers are basically just looking for straight transaction. They go there with their loan offer and then they want to buy a property. If you have subject to sales and in the condition in there, so that can deter the buyers, because they want to get simple transaction. They're not waiting for other things to happen first for you, and that can cause an issue for the transaction to go through. Many buyers are attracted to the straightforward, uncomplicated transactions. A subject to sales arrange adds an extra layer of uncertainty and negotiation complexity, which could deter buyers who are looking for simple buying process. So that is what is it. So that the buyer is looking for straight transaction. They are not looking for complex transaction. Three things have to happen that when this transaction is completed, or different negotiations are happening. So financial considerations. Some buyers might be unable to enter into the subject to sales arranged due to their own financial constraints. So meaning that they don't have a time, or they don't have more money to wait around for this transaction to happen, and that can causing them a financial burden onto this transaction. So they might not have luxury of waiting for their property to sell before making a new purchase, which could lead them to explore the options without this condition. So meaning that they're looking for simple transaction, and they don't have money for this waiting for waits around for this transaction. And imagine, would you be willing to do this transaction subject to sales, and where you have to wait around for a long time to buy your property, and also there's some conditions are associated with that. Would you be okay with that? So think about it in that way. So competing listing and negotiation dynamics. So in a competitive real estate market, buyers have a range of options to choose from. If your property comes with a subject to sales condition, buyer might choose focus on property without such a condition to avoid potential delays and complications. So that is a simple that the buyers not looking for complications, and they don't want to wait around for this this condition have to go through. Negotiation dynamics. The limited pool of buyers under a subject to sales or condition that can sometimes affect the balance of negotiation power. Buyers might feel they have a more leverage to negotiate on the price terms, knowing that you may be more motivated to accommodate their needs to ensure successful sales. So sometimes that when the subject to is happening, they take advantage of the transaction, and the buyers might have feel they have more leverage to negotiate. So they negotiate on the price because this is the subject to transaction, and they can take advantage of that. So extended listing period. So because of the sometimes this transaction is have to go through, other transaction have to go through because of this, so that will prolong your subject to sales. So thank you for watching. What do you think about this, and what is your take on this topic, subject to sales? Please like and leave them in the comment if you have done that. Thank you very much.